Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome back. I want to begin by giving a big thank you once again to our sushi chef, master sushi chef, Eric Shotgiz, who I do want to give him a plug and ask, and promote him. He's open for business. If you have parties and you want some really good sushi, he's available for you, and he can do it. And he does a good job at it. So I want to thank him, and let's get right into it. Okay, so this is the second class in this series. So before I begin further, I just want to quickly do a recap of what we studied last week. The opening of the first chapter, the Alter Rebbe in his title page basically says that the reason for the reason why he wrote this book is because it's to explain the verse in the Torah in Deuteronomy where Moses says the matter of Judaism, of Torah, mitzvahs, and serving God is not only near you in your mind, in your ability to do it or to speak it, to behave in the proper way, but actually uvilvavcha with your heart. In other words, that it's exceedingly near to each and every one of us to serve God with full emotion, with total commitment, not only in action, but also in feeling. Our heart could be attracted to godliness full time. And the question was, and we elaborated on this last week at great length, the question was, it goes against our experience. It doesn't really match up or test, doesn't feel that way to the average person. The average person feels attracted to steak, to a nice cruise, to nice, successful business, to life here on earth, the pleasures of life on earth. Our attraction, our natural attraction is not to God, who is abstract, and we can't see him, and so on. So how does Moshe say such a thing? How does Moses say such a thing? And for that, I explained to you, the Alter Rebbe wrote the book, and what he did in the book was he really got to the core essence of who the human being is. In order to really probe into this dilemma and this question and get an answer, you have to properly understand who we are at the essence, at the deepest level. What's our anatomy of our spiritual anatomy, our soul's anatomy, and so on. So he opened up the book, the first chapter, by asking a few questions. Question number one, he asked, why does the Talmud say that a person, that even though we're told on high before we're born that we should be righteous and not be wicked, and in other words, even though you are living that way, you're a righteous individual, you should always see yourself as wicked. And the question was, how could you give such an instruction? What's the psychological value of such a thing, and why? And especially goes against another dictum in the Talmud, which says just the opposite. You should never see yourself as wicked. So which one is it? And then he asked another few questions, and he basically described mankind. He divided the people, us, all of us, into 5 categories. Righteous, sinful or wicked, and the intermediary, the Beinoni level. And within the righteous and in the sinful, there's 2 levels, the completely righteous and the non-completely righteous. The completely wicked and the non-completely wicked, and then the middle person, who, by the way, is the focus and center of the Tanya. On this middle person called the Beinoni. So get used to that term. I'm going to use that term now from going forward. The Beinoni, you'll know what I mean. It's that intermediary level between the righteous and the wicked. And he basically concluded and proved that a Beinoni is someone that has no sin at all. He's not a person that ever sins. He doesn't miss a moment of opportunity to do a mitzvah. He never does anything wrong, 24 hours, 7 days a week. Always. And the question therefore was, what's the difference between such a person and the righteous. I mean, they seem to be the same. If they both are doing the right thing all the time, never sinning, it seems like a righteous person. Why is he called a Beinoni, an intermediary? And what is the righteous person? That's where we left off last week. You have your Tanya, it's on page 3, or if you have the copies, it's the second page of the copy. We're going to move forward. I put out, you don't have, this is here. It's the same one as last week, but yeah. So before we go further, I want to lay out and give an introduction, and if you can, please listen carefully, because this introduction and the topics and concepts we're going to discuss in it are of paramount importance of understanding the Tanya in general, and understanding any of the mystical and Hasidic, Kabbalistic teachings. God created the world, everything in it. There's no force, no entity, no existence that can exist outside of God bringing it into existence. He's the one that created everything. He created good, he created holiness, he created evil. He created it all. Generally speaking, the Kabbalah talks about 2 realms that are divided in 3. There's the realm of holiness, God, Torah, mitzvahs, good things, holy things. That's one realm. That's godly. Then there's the realm that in Kabbalah is called klippa. What is klippa? Klippa literally means a shell. What's a shell? You see this orange, right? This orange has a shell around it, a peel. In Hebrew, this is called the klippa, the shell of the orange. There could be an apple. An apple has a shell, a peel, and so on. A lot of things have peels, shells. What's the function? What does this shell do? One of its functions is, as a matter of fact, it conceals completely the orange behind it. You don't, when you see this peel, this shell, you do not know what's under. You know it's an orange, but you don't know if it's rotten, if it's juicy, if it's a good orange, if it's a little dry. You don't know. It completely conceals this orange, what's behind it. That's the function of a shell. It does other things too. It protects the fruit as well. But let me focus on that first function, which is to completely conceal what's behind it. The realm that God created that we call klippa, the shell, it's around the corner, the entrance to the shul. The realm that we call klippa, we call it a shell for this reason. Let's take example, this phone, okay? This phone is a physical 3-inch by 6-inch device. This is created by God. I mean, the elements. It was made by Apple, but they used the elements that God created to begin with. It's all a creation from God. Which means that in every single thing that God created, every single thing in this world, in this universe, there is a spark of godly creative force that's in this. Otherwise, it wouldn't exist. There's godliness, a spark of godliness in every single entity. In this cup, in this phone holder, in this computer, in everything, in this orange, this book, the water, everything. The problem is that God created it in such a way that his spark is completely concealed. We don't see the godliness in this thing. Do you? I see a phone. I see metal. I see plastic. I see a lot of things. I do not see the spark of God in this. Even though the ultimate truth is that it's all a manifestation of that spark of godliness. But it covers it completely, and we don't see it. It's completely concealed. And that's why This whole realm of the ungodly or the unholy is called klippa. It's a shell. There's godliness in everything, but we don't see it. It's shelled and covered by the husk, by the peel that covers and conceals this godliness. We can have a discussion why God created the world that way. Why didn't He create everything where He is apparent? He is manifestly apparent. We see Him, we observe Him, and so on. He did not. He chose to do it differently, where everything is completely concealed. His part in everything, His husk, is completely covered. Understood? Within the realm of the klippa, which is the unholy, the ungodly, see, that which is godly is obviously godly. It's apparent godliness. When you look at a Torah, it's godliness. It's obviously holy, godly, we know. But everything else is not. Within the realm of the peel, the shell, klippa, there are two levels. There's the klippa's noiga, klippa that is translucent, and then there's the completely opaque klippa, which completely conceals the spark of godliness. What do I mean by that? Let me give you an example. I'm going to use this flashlight. We're going to say that this light is the godliness that's in everything, right? Very strong light. When I put it on my mouth, very strong. When I put it into this bag and I try to shine through it, you don't see anything. It's completely, utterly concealed. There's light in there. It's on. I didn't turn it off. You don't see any of it. This is the completely opaque klippa. But then there's this. You see some light? Through this you see a little light. This is the klippa that we call klippat noga. In other words, the spark of godliness, the light can shine through. It has the ability to shine through. And if you take it even a thinner thing, you can see even more. So depending on how layered it is, that's how much it's going to conceal it. Okay. This is true with everything in this world. Let me explain how it relates to God and Torah and to our discussion. Let's take, for example, this cup of coffee. This comes from the realm of klippa, right? There's two realms, right? The realm of holiness and the godliness, and the realm of klippa, which conceal godliness. That's why everything that emerges and comes from that force called klippa will result in something that is concealing completely the godly spark that's in it, right? So everything that comes from klippa will be a klippa, will be a peel, a shell that will conceal the godly spark that's in it, correct? But could godliness shine through this cup? Like that flashlight shines through the little cloth. Could it? Could the godly spark that's in this cup become revealed godliness? Can it shine through? How? It could. The way it's done is as follows. You could use this cup, let's say, in an unholy environment, a very unholy place. And people are having themselves a good time, they're drinking wine, they're being merry, and it's leading to no good, not a good situation. This cup has been used in something very negative. Not only is it no longer shining, godliness shining through it, you've dragged it down to the completely unholy realm of klippa. But what happens if we're using this in the setting of a class of Torah? Like right now, I'm drinking this coffee because I need energy. Why do I need energy right now? Because I want to teach Tanya, I want to teach Torah. So as a result of me drinking this coffee, which is being abled by the cup, right? Because otherwise the coffee would be all over the place. So right now, I'm taking something that is in the realm of klippa, and I'm allowing for the godly spark to shine through. It's being utilized in an apparently holy way. You follow? So what happens is, when we're using every single day in the 24-hour day, you're using thousands upon thousands of items of klippas noiga, of the klippa that could shine, the godliness could shine through it. Well, let me put it this way. This is in the realm of klippas noiga. If you have a question, please ask. That's the rule here. If you have if anything that's in the realm of klippas noiga, the translucent klippa, is in that realm until man comes in contact with it. Once man comes in contact with it, it either goes down to the completely unholy realm or it is lifted up to the holy realm. It's taken out of the realm of klippas noiga. It's either in the completely opaque klippa if you use it for sinful purposes, or if you use it for positive purposes, holy purposes, you've elevated into the realm of holiness. Does that make sense? You get it. What comes from the totally unclean klippa, the totally opaque klippa? Everything that is sinful. Let's say a mixture of milk and meat. A mixture of milk and meat. A Jew comes home and he takes a cup of milk, takes a piece of schnitzel or chicken, and he eats them together, right? Which is a prohibition in the Torah, okay? Or he takes a piece of bacon, pork. He goes to the Publix, buys pork, and eats it. That's a prohibition. Why is it a prohibition? Why did God prohibit these 365 things, these 365 prohibitions in the Torah? Why did he prohibit them? You ever thought of that? Why were these things prohibited? Well, a lot of things the answer is some things we know why and some things we don't. But one thing we know certain, that if it's prohibited, it's because it comes inherently from the opaque, unholy side of klippa. And therefore, imagine this. Let me put it this way. Imagine a Jew does the same thing I just did with my coffee with a piece of bacon. He says, I'm hungry, I want to teach Torah. In order for me to teach Torah, I need energy. What better than eating good? Than going to the McDonald's, buying a cheeseburger and eating it. That'll give me strength. That'll give me koyach. I can come in and teach for 3 hours Torah. Have I taken the bacon, that cheeseburger, out of the realm of klippa? That cannot be, it's not a translucent klippa. It cannot, in other words, the spark of godliness is in the bacon. It's also a creation of God, but it's locked up there. It is totally concealed without the ability to be revealed. It's in golus, so to say. It's an exile in the bacon. It cannot be redeemed. It cannot be revealed, sorry. So if you're going to try to reveal it through this mechanism, I'll eat it, and with the energy, I'll make a blessing over it, and with the energy, I'll do something good. God says this you have to stay away from. That is from the realm that that is off limits. Why is it off limits? Because you cannot get in contact with the spark of godliness in it, and you cannot elevate it. It's locked up there. And that's what makes it prohibited, because it comes from that realm. And this is true with every single thing that's prohibited. But the reality is that most of our world, most of this physical world, comes from that middle realm, the not opaque, in other words, the translucent klippa. In other words, it conceals godliness until you come and get that godly spark out of it. In other words, you allow it to be revealed through utilizing it in good purposes. The chairs you are sitting on. It was in a furniture store. In the realm of the neutral klippa, let's call it the neutral klippa. But then a human being came in contact with it, right? I bought it. And I brought it to a synagogue. Jews are sitting on it to learn Torah. You couldn't do the chair a better favor than that. Because in the chair there's a spark of godliness, and it's waiting for that redemption to shine through. You're allowing it to shine through. Imagine this chair would have been bought and brought to, let's say, a casino or some other environment that is unholy, a house of idol worship, for example, or other, such situations. You brought it down. Now, you can take it out of there and bring it into, it remains, in other words, like this. Pork is always in the realm of unholiness. It can never be redeemed because it comes from the three unclean from that opaque klippa. You understand what I'm saying? But everything else, these cheers, and then most of this world, really, when you think about it, most of the physical world, mountains, stones, trees, you name it, houses, cars, it's all neutral stuff. But then man comes in contact with it and decides how he or she is going to utilize it. If he or she utilizes it for a good purpose, David, I think we need your help. Make it a little colder. So again, most of this physical world is in the realm of the neutral. Very few things that are completely prohibited. Not that much. Most of the things that you are in contact with every single day are in the neutral realm. So let's take this orange or this cup, whatever it may be. It comes from the translucent klippa, which means that it could be used for a holy purpose. If you use it for an unholy purpose, you dragged it down. Could you then bring it back up and bring it into the realm of holiness? You could. This you could. Pork you can't. Because this comes from the neutral klippa, pork comes from the unneutral klippa, from the unholy side, completely unholy side. And not only pork, but holy, sinful, everything that's sinful in the Torah. And that's why it's sinful. God tells you, stay away from these things because you can't redeem my spark. It's too deeply embedded and it's completely concealed. It is what it is. It's sinful. Now you can ask, why did God create sinful, unholy, such clearly unholy things? Because he wants a balance in this world. He wants us to be able to choose between right and wrong. So he needs a realm of wrong, right? If there was no wrong, there was no evil, there was nothing wrong in this world, then you couldn't do anything good either. In other words, it's only good because you could have done bad. That's what makes this good. If there's freedom to choose, then your choices are meaningful. It's good. But imagine God put us in the Garden of Eden, and there was nothing evil. There was no unholiness, nothing. And so you say, you're doing good all day. You're not doing good at all. It's not good if there's no counter evil. If it's not balanced with evil, then this is not good. An animal can't do anything good in reality because it doesn't have freedom of choice. Good and evil is freedom of choice allows us to be good or bad. Where there's no freedom of choice, you can't be good or bad. You can be doing good. You can be doing things that are very pleasant and very helpful to people, but they're not natural. If you didn't have the ability to do bad, you can't do good. Yeah? You understand that? I need to elaborate a little more on that. Something is good because it could have been the opposite. Why do you give your son or daughter a prize when they pass a test and they do well in school? Because they could have done not good in school. And because they chose to do good, they're rewarded. If there was only one option for them, there would be no reason to reward them. No one rewards angels in heaven. You know why? Because there's nothing, they don't have the ability to do wrong. And therefore, when they do right, there's nothing special about it. So God wants us to do good. How does He make it possible for us to do good? By creating a whole realm that's not good. And He says, now you have these two things in front of you. Please choose the right way. That's why He created klippa. That's why He created this realm that's called klippa. But within klippa, there's two realms, two parts. The opaque completely becomes sinful. Don't touch it. Stay away from it. There's nothing you can do to redeem it. But then there's that whole realm that God says, I have sparks all over the place. I need you to go and redeem them and elevate them and uncover my truth. Understood? With that introduction, we can now start learning the rest of chapter 1. You with me? Any questions? No? Okay, we're going further. We're on page 3, the right column, the line that starts with the explanation, the paragraph, the explanation of the questions raised above. We'll wait till everyone has it, and we'll start. The explanation of the question raised above is to be found in the light of what Rabbi Chaim Vital wrote in Shar HaKedusha and in Eitz Chaim Portal 50, Chapter 2. These are Kabbalistic works. Rabbi Chaim Vital was the greatest or most important or the disciple of the famous Kabbalist, most famous Kabbalist of all time, Rabbi Isaac Luria, known in Hebrew as the Arizal. He wrote his books, he wrote his teachings down. Rabbi Chaim, his student, wrote down all the Arizal's works, and some of those books are quoted here. What does he write in these books? That in every Jew, whether righteous or wicked, are two souls. It lays down a very important foundation that every single one of us has two souls. As it is written. It's written in Isaiah, I believe, in Proverbs, sorry. As is written, no, this is in Isaiah, I believe. The neshama's souls, which I have made. In that verse, neshama's souls is in plural. And he's talking about an individual person. Every individual, he's talking about one person, and God says, I made in this person neshamos, souls in the plural. So you see that every person has not just one soul, we have two souls. Alluding to two souls. There is one soul, he's going to describe now till the end of chapter 1, the first soul. Let me first tell you what this first soul is outside, and then we'll read it in his words. This soul is called, in the Hebrew, in the Tanya, he calls it the nefesh habahamit, the animalistic soul within the human being. Or in other places, it's interchanged with nefesh hachayunit, which means the living soul. This soul is what gives our body life. It animates our body. It's what makes us live. It's in the bloodstream, and that's what distinguishes us from someone who's, God forbid, dead. Someone who died, his soul departed from him. What does it mean, his soul departed? He's no longer alive. What makes him alive and this person dead? The difference is this one has a soul, that this first soul, this human soul we'll call it, the human soul that is vivifying his body, giving it life, making it live. You can move, touch, speak, smell, talk, taste. This is all from that soul. You're alive. It gives you life. The truth is an animal also has a soul. A dog, a cat, a lion, and all animals have a soul. It's just not a human soul. It's an animal soul. But interestingly enough, the first human soul that he's going to describe here, the Alter Rebbe in Tanya calls it the nefesh habahamit, which means the animalistic soul within the human being. Why does he call it an animalistic soul? So first let me explain what is the definition of this soul. This soul, he says, comes from klippa, comes from the realm of klippa. What did we define as the realm of klippa? The fact that it conceals godliness, right? It completely conceals godliness. Does it have a godliness in it? It does, like everything else does. The human soul also has a godly spark that gives it existence, but it's completely concealed. What's revealed? What is its existence all about? It's about self-centered pleasures. Your life from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, most people, a lot of people, what's this life about? What's this soul about? Self-enhancement. You wake up, you eat breakfast because you're hungry. You go to work because you want money. You rest because you want to feel good. Whatever we do, it's a self-enhancing activity. Anything that comes from that soul, that is. We'll talk about the second soul in chapter 2. But this first soul is all about me, and me again. That's what motivates this soul's activity. His thoughts, his feelings, everything. And it's a full persona. It's got feelings, it's got thoughts, it's got intellect, it's got perceptions, it has all that. But it's all directed to self. And in that sense, it's a klippa. It's a shell. It covers the truth. What's the truth? God's the only truth in this world. The only real truth in this world is God. If it's doing what? Yeah, self-centeredness, yeah. Correct. It's opaque. We'll discuss that in a minute. So your question is? He's going to say the first soul within each of us comes from the middle klippa, from the more translucent klippa. We'll talk about that in a few minutes when we get there. Yeah? Yeah. No, it's two full personas, two full souls. This first soul is the human soul, or as he calls it, the animalistic soul. I'll describe all these terms in a moment. Is a self-centered soul. That's what defines it. It has no interest in godliness. In fact, it has no interest in an orange either. What is its interest? Self. Now, usually, once in a while, our self gets an enjoyment from eating an orange. So it's going to be attracted to an orange. Usually, or more oftenly, our self likes the phone, a cell phone. So it's going to be attracted to the cell phone a whole lot more. There's a lot more fun things to do on a cell phone than an orange. That's why the person is completely dedicated to addicted to his cell phone. He's not addicted to an orange. How much pleasure do you get from an orange? Once in a while, you do. This gives you a lot of pleasure for some reason. It's into self. Whatever this self, whatever can enhance self, that soul is going to be driven to acquire that thing. Nice cars enhances us. Nice homes gives us status, gives us pleasure. It does. So the self is going to be attracted to those things. How about giving charity? Or helping an older person across the street? Is it selfish? It could be. I feel good when I do that. It's something that I feel good doing. And I also realize if I'm a little more sophisticated, I can appreciate that a human being should be a complete, full human being and do kind things to others. Don't be just, that can enhance self as well. It makes me feel good as a perfect human being. Again, it's a self-centered activity. Not bad. There's nothing bad with that, but it's just self-centered. So you can do a lot of good things and be self-centered. The old Hasidim used to say you can have a Yetzer Hara, you can have a human soul that is very refined and very nice. Now, some people are attracted to money. Some people, most people, attracted to money. So you want to work and make money and earn money so you can pay bills, and you can enhance, you can go on nice vacation, you can buy nice things and so on. Some people don't have, now this animal soul or this human soul, which we'll call animalistic, and I'll say why in a minute, it's called the animalistic soul. This animalistic soul can also lead you to very bad things. For example, let's talk on money. Every person has a desire for money. Some people know that, okay, if I want money, I'm going to go work. I'll put in a day's work. I'll get a degree. I'll make a lot of money. But some people, as much as they made, they're still not satisfied. So what do? They go into other people's pockets to get some money. And they steal. So this soul, because it's self-centered, it can also lead you to really bad things. Right? You get that? You follow or not? In other words, it's the drive for self-centered pleasures. If I can't get it honestly, sometimes I'll get it dishonestly. Hopefully most people are good people and they know how to discipline themselves and they know how to say no. That's off limits. I can't do that. But a lot of people don't have that limit. Yeah, they end up in jail. Yeah. I agree with you. You should keep doing self-centered good deeds all day long. I wish we had more such people. 100%. You hit the nail on the head. We should never stop doing something good because I am a little bit in self-interest as well. Keep doing good things. But it doesn't. But sometimes a good deed could be a mix of good, self. It could be a mixture. And sometimes it gets very difficult to decipher what's purely good and what part. It can get interesting. But that comes from the first soul. The first soul is very self-centered, extremely self-centered. And all its drives and all its thoughts and all its feelings, everything is around what brings me self-satisfaction, self-enhancement. Now, if you can convince your animalistic soul that learning Torah is a pleasure, it's going to go learn Torah. It's not anti-God. Understand, this is not an anti-God soul. He's not looking to do against God. He's looking to he's trying to self-enhance, right? That's its definition. If godliness enhances me, great, I'll invite him into my life. Usually people have to be convinced that godliness can be a self-enhancer. Usually they're more attracted to Broadway, to other such things, to things that we are all looking and we can't wait for the next instant gratification, right? But if you can convince the human soul that being a mensch and being godly and doing Shabbos and doing kosher and learning Torah, these are all great things for you for the self-enhancement. There's no objection. It has no objection to that. But its definition that is God-centered, that it's self-centered. The second soul we'll see soon is a God-centered soul. It's a godly soul. It's a piece of God that God put into every one of us. And that is God-centered, has no self-interest at all. Now, if God put these two souls in two different places, that would be one thing. It would be peaceful. Problem is he put them into one body, both these souls, with one set of hands, one set of feet, one set of eyes, one set of ears, one heart, one mind. Now, they're struggling. Now, each one is struggling to get who gets mastery over this body. The self-centered soul wants all of its body, everything to go towards self-centered ends. The godly soul wants to just the opposite. It should be all God-centered. And that's the perpetual struggle between these two souls. But they're two full souls. Now, the first soul of a Jew comes from klippa, from klippas noiga. From it come all its negatives, negative character traits. But because it comes from the translucent klippa, where there's a little godliness that can shine through there in that realm, there's some good character traits that we also have as natural to that soul. Let's read it in his words. One more introduction. Sorry. In Tanya, you're going to have to get used to this. The Alter Rebbe's terms of good and evil are completely different than the terms as we are used to using them. To the Alter Rebbe, in this Tanya, in his work here, good is godly and evil is self-centered. Why is it evil? Why is being self-centered evil? Let's analyze that for a moment. This is important. What is evil about being self-centered in a kosher way? In other words, I'm not doing anything wrong to anyone. I'm taking money that I earned honestly, and I'm going on a cruise just to have pleasure of just to enjoy life without any godly purpose behind it. Just, I want to have a good time. Nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. He calls it evil. Why is it in his definition this evil? No normal person would call such a thing evil. It's clean. It's nice. You bought it. You paid for it. You traded goods. You paid money for a cruise. What's wrong with it? What's evil about it? Or better yet, let me give you a simple thing. You go to Publix, you buy this orange, and you paid for it honestly, and you eat it because you like oranges. That would be defined as an evil act. Why? What's wrong with what did I do wrong? It's kosher. It's not even trade. It's not even not kosher. It's all good. Oh, what does it mean to be self-centered? This is very important. Self-centered means you're perpetuating an utter falsehood. What's the truth of life? What's the ultimate truth in this world? God's truth. He is the creator of the world, created with a purpose. We're all here because he brought us here, and he brought us here with a purpose and to serve him, to do things for him. This is all his world. He wants certain things out of this world, and everything has to be directed to him. The moment you separate yourself from that and you say, well, God, I'm not interested in his interest right now. I have my own agenda. And right now it's going to Broadway and enjoying a show. What you're doing is, although you're not harming anyone, but you're perpetuating a falsehood. What is the meaning of being self-centered? It means to the exclusion of God. If it's not to the exclusion of God, somehow, I'm drinking this coffee. Do I enjoy coffee? Yeah, I enjoy coffee. I'm being self-centered when I drink this coffee? You could say, yeah, he likes coffee, but because I'm using it, it's not to the exclusion of God. I'm using it in a godly service. I'm trying to do something good with it. I'm going to be able to teach Torah because I drank this coffee. It gives me a little energy. It gives me a little adrenaline. So it's not to the exclusion of God. I'm not perpetuating a falsehood. This coffee is godly. But when I'm doing something that has absolutely no godly direction to it, it's all about me. Who are you? You are elevating yourself, you're perpetuating a self-importance that's not really true. You're not important. We are not important to the exclusion of God. We only are important if we're in this service of God, if we're in this bigger puzzle, that we're a piece in God's puzzle. If you separate yourself from the puzzle and you say, I'm my own person right now, leave me alone with God's business, I have my own interests right now, you have perpetuated an utter falsehood, that you are important. That's a lie.
But if you pray to God,
Yeah.
and say, dear God, thank you for providing me with the ability to go to this show.
Yeah. I understand your question. So it's very nuanced. Let me explain. You can go to shows. Don't worry about it. No. It becomes very nuanced. In other words, you're saying, so wait a minute, what am I supposed to do? I go to work. Yeah, let's talk about our work day. I'm selling shoes, let's say, for a living. A customer comes in, wants me to sell him shoes. I'm occupied with him, his foot size, and selling him a pair of shoes. He writes me the check. He gives me a credit card, and I have a little more money in my bank account. Was that a godly act? It wasn't. Not at all. What was godly about that? Was it a bad act? Not at all. You helped the person. You bought shoes. You got money. You got shoes. Everyone's happy. What's wrong with that? The question becomes, and this is not something we have to be conscious of every second of the day. The question is, why are you going to work, period? What's the reason you are interested in making a living? Why do you live? What's your ultimate goal in life? If your ultimate goal is so I can make more money so that at the end of the year I can really go on this magnificent vacation for 2 weeks to Europe, and then it just, I come back January 3rd and it just starts all over again, that race for another pleasure. Yeah, then it's a very self-centered type of lifestyle. But if your life is, I want a family, I want to raise a good Jewish family that's conscious of God, they're conscious of our ultimate purpose, and in the process, we go on vacation to enjoy family time together, to enhance and strengthen the family unit. There's nothing wrong with that. On the contrary, that's a good thing. So it's not a question of every second of the day what you're thinking. If you're thinking about God every time you sell a pair of shoes, or every time whatever you do, you're doing. It's a question of a general outlook in life. Yeah, and then it could become more detailed also, of course. But the point is, what's life? What is our life? Is our life directed towards a general good end? Then everything you're doing in that life is leading to that end, then it's all becoming part of this elevation of the spark. And everything you're doing, you get it? No? It's abstract. Let me explain better then. It's abstract. If I may ask you, what do you mean that it's abstract? What's abstract about it? You can't live your life that way. Every second thinking about what this, if I'm, there's an end, a godly end to it. I'm not saying you should. In fact, I'm saying you don't have to.
For example, if I do go to a show, how can I elevate that moment? Like, how can I, exactly. How can I, because I do want to go, or I want to go to this vacation.
Right.
I want to go to the supermarket and buy oranges. So how can I?
Right. Good question. Yeah.
How can I make it, that moment godly, or every moment of my life godly?
Well, let's start from the general. Let's start from the generality. And then we'll zero in, right? We'll start broad and we'll zero in. Let's take one day at a time. Why do you wake up in the morning? What's your reason for waking up? That's why you wake up. That's the only reason. If your husband took him to school, you don't have to wake up. What's the purpose of your day? Do you have a general thought in the beginning of the day? What am I here? I mean, that's really the question you have to ask yourself. And I'll be a little more kind to you than you are to yourself. I truly do believe that when you think about this question, you will come to the conclusion. The problem is most people don't think about this. This is part of the problem. We just go through life. It's a routine. We get into it's like you're spinning wheels. The same routine over and over. Stop a second and think, why am I alive? Why am I here? What's my purpose in life? If you have that question once a day, once a week, once a month, whatever it is, why am I bringing children into this world? Why did I do this? Why do I need a family? Who does it serve? Except for me, is that the whole thing? No, I want to do something right. I want to leave a legacy. I want to leave good kids. They should make a difference in the world, right? These things go through our minds once in a while, no? We think about this. And then we also bring in a little God into this picture, right? We do have a thought about God once in a while, that he's part of this picture, maybe the biggest part of this picture. So in other words, if our daily wake up is, I want to be here for a higher purpose. And in that, I make a living, enhance my family, enhance our life, so I can serve that way, I can be a better person, then everything you're doing in that, to that end is also part of it. So let me give you an example. So to make it simple. Let's say, make a Shabbos meal. Let's say you invite 10 people to the Shabbos meal this Friday night. What does it take to make a Shabbos meal? Is that a good deed? That's a godly thing, obviously. What does it take to make a Shabbos meal? First of all, it takes to make money. You got to make money to be able to buy the things for Shabbos. You got to cook. You got to go. You have to have a car to go shop. You have to go. You have to put on your clothing to go out. You know how many thousands of movements and aspects there are in the making, till you get the final product where you're sitting around the table, a set table, and eating a Shabbos meal, making Kiddush and doing a holy act? You know how many mundane or neutral things you have to do to get you to that point? Thousands and thousands of acts. You don't even realize it. But imagine if all that went to this end, all of that was centered around a godly thing. Now, if you're inviting people to just a party to just whatever, then it's all those thousands of things to whatever, to yourself. And that's what life is about. So it's not abstract. The question is, What is my life? So this show, going back to the show that you're so interested in, does the show enhance your life? Yeah, it makes you feel good. Once in a while, a person needs to feel good for their own equilibrium, for their own sense of calmness. I could see someone saying, in order for me to be a better person and a good person that can serve God better, I need to have a little vacation time. By all means. Vacation is not a bad thing. Not bad at all. It could be very self-centered, which in the Alter Rebbe's definition would be the perpetuation of an ultimate falsehood, your self-importance, which is false, you're not important. Or it could be, so I can be a better person tomorrow and serve God better and learn better, have a better mind, have a better family. I don't know, there's so many reasons why we need to go on vacation. Vacation is a very good thing for families. And to have a healthy family is a very, very godly thing, by the way. So it's not a sum, it's not every second you have to be thinking about a mitzvah. No, it's not. It's a general kind. Why am I here? What's my life about? Now, the soul is not interested in God at all. It's not against him, but it's just about me. What makes me feel good right now or next hour or next day? And that's where its whole drive is. That in the Alter Rebbe's definition is bad. You know why? Because it's a lie. Because it is a big fat lie. What's the lie? I'm important. I need this now for myself. You need you. What do you need? You don't need anything. God needs. You're there in his service. The minute you separate, you pull that piece of puzzle, the piece out of the puzzle, and you made it separate. So first of all, it looks terrible. Right? You ever saw a full puzzle with one missing piece? It looks terrible. And you separated it. You gave this piece self-importance outside of the puzzle. It's a lie. It's not important outside of the puzzle. It's only important in the puzzle. The minute you take it out of the puzzle, it looks like a funny cut thing. It serves no purpose. This thing feels good about himself, which we do. We feel very good about ourselves being outside the puzzle. But it's a lie. You're not important. Only in the puzzle are we important. Now, if you're in the puzzle, that means you can't eat. No, eat as much as you want. If you're in the puzzle, you can't sleep. You can sleep as much as you want. If you're in the puzzle, you can't have a good time. You can have as much good time as you want, if it serves the bigger puzzle. But the minute you take yourself out of the puzzle, you're lying. It's just an absolute falsehood. And that's what makes it bad. So evil is not you killed someone, you stole from someone, you lied to someone, you mistreated someone. That's obvious evil. That's what we define as evil. The Alter Rebbe's definition of evil is when you perpetuate this falsehood in this world that we are separate from the bigger puzzle. That's why he calls it evil, because it is an evil when you think about it in its core essence. It's an evil. It's a lie. We're living a falsehood. Now, who benefits from that? Yeah. Who wanted to ask something? Yeah.
You say that there are two different missions, but need to be some communication group between them.
There's it.
Because, for example, you get an example that you go buy an orange, you eat it, and it's an evil. But also, God put, the shaman of our body, we need to take care of our body and get fruit, good food that is kasher, is good for our body. So, my question is, each action that you do have two parts of the coin. The evil coin, but the other one too. So, in this case, you are doing something that is evil because you eat something for yourself.
I didn't say it's evil. I said he calls it evil if it's only for yourself without any larger purpose. You just gave me a bunch of different purposes that are all noble. You need to be healthy. You need to be good. Sure, that's very noble. That's part of the puzzle. God wants healthy people in this world. He doesn't want you to be sick. Very good question. He's asking, what's the communication? What's the relationship between these two souls? Or are they related in any way? The answer is they're very related. They're joined at the hip. What do I mean by that? The soul of the godly soul wants to serve God. How do you serve God? Let's say, what? Through the other soul. In other words, through the body. In other words, let's explain it this way. Your godly soul wants to keep Shabbos. Let's take Shabbos for an example. Or let's take Pesach. You want to make a Seder. Everyone over here makes a Seder on Passover, I assume, right? So let's say the God who wants to make the Seder. It's a function of the godly soul. The godly soul wants to do this mitzvah. How could the godly soul do this mitzvah? There's only one way. It gets your hands to go buy the matzah. It gets your mouth to chew the matzah. It has to utilize the body and its human soul to do anything in this world. So the godly soul is meshed and one with the human soul. It functions only through the human soul. It can't function any other way. And that's, by the way, the perpetual struggle. In other words, the human soul is looking to be self-centered. The godly soul is trying to schlep it and the body to do what it wants. So sometimes all the life is a struggle between these two forces. Sometimes this wins, sometimes this wins. The old chassid once said, "Life is a struggle." Yeah, sometimes he was talking to his animal soul, yeah, his evil inclination. He says, "Sometimes you hit me, sometimes I hit you down, right? I knock you down, sometimes you knock me down. I pray that the last knock should be him. I should knock him down the last one. The final knock should be mine." But that's really the truth. The godly soul cannot function without the body and the human soul. You're putting on tefillin in the morning. Who do you think is putting on the tefillin? This movement, yeah? You're wrapping tefillin. Who's doing this? My hand, my right hand on my left hand. Where's my right hand getting the ability to move? The movements are coming from the human soul. What makes this hand movable and someone that died can't move his hand? The fact that I have a human soul in my body, giving it life so it can make movements and do what it has to do, right? The godly soul now is another force within me, a full force, that is utilizing my human soul and the body to do what God wants. So they're enclosed in each other. They really work together. They have to work together. The problem is that they're opposing each other in certain ways. Opposing each other. In other words, the godly soul in chapter 9 is going to describe this battle between the two souls. But the godly wants this way, the human wants that way. And what's the human's way? Self-centered. That's all it's interested in. It's not evil. It's not cruel. It's not looking to be cruel. It's looking to be to enhance self. Now, sometimes that could lead you to very immoral behavior. If business is going bad, you don't have money, what do? Some people, they want to have what they need, right? They'll go steal the money. So, in other words, the self-centered drive could lead you to do very bad things. Doesn't have to. But it will lead you to do very self-centered things. And in the Alter Rebbe's definition, self-centered to the exclusion of God, when you pull it out of the puzzle, that's a falsehood that should not be tolerated in God's world. It's a new definition of evil and good. Good is godly, evil is self. That's really his definition. What time is it now? 8:40. Let's go 5 more minutes. We'll be done. Any questions, first of all? Yeah.
I apologize for stepping out. Is this something that we're supposed to analyze daily? Like at the end of the day, do a recap and say, I did this, and it was evil, or is this something we're supposed to just do our normal thing, but be cognizant of it? Because it seems to me that it takes up a lot of time.
I'll answer you. How often do you do an analysis on your business? If it's making money, if it's not making money, how often do you do that?
Well, it's to different degrees, constantly.
Constantly. If you take your life seriously, you'll do this constantly also. How am I doing? Now, the month of Elul, the last month of the year, is that month that we're told this is time of stock taking. But truthfully, at the bedtime Shema, that's when it's supposed to be done. You can't sit and do this for 3 hours a night. By the way, there were people that I knew that did this 3 hours a night. Serious. That's how they took this very serious. That's already a unique individual. They're on a higher level. It's a different kind of person. I knew such people. They're not around. They're not, it's not a common thing. But to do a little stock taking every so often, just a basic normal human being does that anyway. So you can do it in your business affairs. You can do it in your family affairs. How's my family doing? How are my children doing? We do this all the time. If you don't do that, you lose control of everything. So in your spiritual life, it's also important to do that. Yeah. That's a Jew. The second soul is uniquely Jewish. It's what we call the neshama. You ever heard the term neshama? They have a human soul. Sure, every person has a soul. So here's a good question, a very good point. Spalter Rebbe is going to talk about this. He makes a very interesting statement at the end of this chapter. I don't know if you read ahead. But he says like this, that the human soul of the Jew comes from the translucent klippa, that godliness could shine through. What does that mean? Let's read it in his words. I mean, it's going to take a little time, so I was going to leave it to next week. But briefly, we won't read it. I'll just tell you very briefly, and we'll go back to it next week. He says that this soul, this human soul, all the bad character traits come from it. Anger, arrogance, all of that comes from this human soul. Because it's klippa, it's shell, it's the concealment, right? So all bad comes from it. But he says that also good character traits come from it. If your neshama comes from klippas nega, from that translucent klippa, in other words, where godliness could shine through, there's some good there that is able to come through, that also produces natural good traits. So for example, we're benevolent, we're compassionate. These are the characteristics of the Talmud says, what is the characteristics of the Jewish people? Is that they're benevolent by nature. You don't have to work on it.
Is that the human soul by itself?
Yeah,
or is
the
that,
human.
No, or is that the godly soul coming through the human soul?
That's what he's saying over here, that no, that's the human self, the human soul by itself. In other words, on its own, it could be benevolent. Now, there are Gentiles that are also come from klippas noiga, from that. Their soul comes from this middle realm, which can produce natural good traits. What does natural good traits do? What do we mean by good traits? For example, I gave the example before of giving charity, yeah? You see a poor person in the street with torn clothing, it's the middle of the winter, he's under a bridge, he turns out his hand to you and says, could you please get me a sandwich? Can you give me $5 for a sandwich? He's freezing, his clothing are torn, he hasn't had a shower in 2 weeks. You see that this person is just in a horrible situation. What's your natural instinct? You got to give him the money, right? Why do you want to give him the money? Let's analyze this from. It's very interesting. Why do you give him the money? There's two reasons you can give him the money. There's two reasons that I'm going to present to you for which reason you'll give him the money. One, I can't take it to see such misery. It makes me feel, I can't go to sleep at night well if I didn't give this person money. I'd feel horrible if I didn't give that person money. Why? What kind of person am I if I don't give him the money? It makes me upset that I can't deal with seeing such a thing and just walking away. I'm not that, I would feel very guilty going to sleep that night. For my own personal, to feel like a good person. What is that? Let's analyze it in its pure. Don't come to conclusion. But is that a godly act or is that a human act? What? Human. Is it human or godly? Which one is it? What? It's a bit of both. I think you're right. It's a bit of both. But let's strip it down even one layer. Let's strip it down even one more layer. Why did you give that money? Let's get down to the core essence. You gave it to him because of God or because you can't sleep that night knowing that I was a creep not giving him the money?
I think that you give the pay because you're good. You can't.
No, because you're selfish. And
Here's
you
where.
feel good.
No, but at the end of the day, you're losing something. You're losing something, so it's not a good self.
What did you lose?
You lost your money.
I'll give you an example.
That's selfish too.
I'll give you an example. I'll tell you where this manifests itself. You want to hear where this manifests itself? I'll show you where this manifests. I'm a fundraiser. That's what I do for part of my life. Part of my job is to raise funds. I love doing it. You know why I love doing it? Because I love putting on film with Jews. I love shaking a lulav with Jews, teaching Torah with Jews. And I love teaching Jews to give charity because it's a mitzvah. So I love doing all these things. But I have to say, I like this better than raising money. That I do. I will admit. But I go and let's take myself, I'll call a person. This is theoretical because this never happens. But I'll call a person. Let's say, Jack, could you give, a little short, can you help us with $1,000? Okay, let's say. Rabbi, I did well this week. I can give you $1,000. Next guy comes in. Jack, the school is having a hard time. Could you help us with $1,000? Takes a look at his checkbook. All right, I'll give you another $1,000. Knock on the door. A third fundraiser comes in. There's families that don't have enough money to pay their rent. They buy food. We have an organization that helps poor people. Could you help us with a donation? Whatever. Okay, he still feels that it's the right thing to do. Why is it the right thing to do? Because he calculates. Listen, I made, let's say, this month was really good. I made $50,000, doing incredibly well. Out of $50,000, I can give $10,000 to charity, right? Or $5,000, 10%, right? So when before I give 10%, I feel empty. I don't feel good about myself not giving 10% when I made so much. But imagine if 5 fundraisers came by and you gave him the $5,000. Now the 6th guy comes by. Now he's not feeling that. If he told that guy no, he wouldn't feel guilty. I gave my 10%. I did my share, right? You did your fair share. You did the right thing. I'm a good person. I rose to the occasion, gave my fair share. Let's even say I'll give 20%. I'll give 10,000. It's a really good month. 50,000, 10,000 I can give away. He gave the whole 10,000 away. I can go to sleep very well knowing that I gave away 10 out of 50. Any normal person will tell you, that's a generous guy. You can sleep very well knowing I rose, I'm a good person. I feel complete. But then the 11th guy comes in and says, we really, really are tight. They're taking away, there's a foreclosure on the building, on the synagogue. We need $5,000 immediately to pay the mortgage. He says, I'm not giving the fee. He tells him, sorry, I'm not giving. It's too much. I gave already much more than I thought I should. And goodbye. Guy goes out the door. He says, okay, I'm sorry for bothering you. And he leaves. And then the Jew calls the guy back. You know what? Here's the $5,000. Calls him back and gives him the $5,000. Why did he give him that $5,000? That last $5,000 was not selfish. That was not selfish. That was because from a selfish point of view, I should feel good, I should feel complete, I'm the right guy, I did my duty. That stopped at 10,000. By all counts, he's a good person. He's complete, he did his share. No one would blame him if he didn't give that guy the $5,000. No one could blame him. Yet he gave it to him. Why? The guy needed it. He needed it. God needed it. This wasn't about him. The likelihood that that's not about him is very high. The first 10 could be about him. I would feel very empty if I went to sleep knowing that they asked me when I have so much and I didn't give it. But once I gave my duty and beyond, I'm not feeling bad anymore. I don't need this for my self-enhancement, for my feeling of being a good person. I don't need to give that extra 5. I'm perfectly fine with the 10 I gave. But yet he gave another 5. Where does that come from? That didn't come from his godly soul necessarily. That still came from his animal soul, from his human soul, which rose to the occasion to be really good, godly. It was not self-centered. A Jew or a person that has a soul from the realm of klippa's noiga, if he comes from that natural reality, he could rise above himself. He can transcend himself and do the right thing. Someone that doesn't have that soul can't. He doesn't have it. Doesn't. Where's he getting it from? Where is a person that doesn't have the soul? He comes from the completely opaque klippa, and some souls come from the human souls. That is, come from the completely opaque klippa shell. So if you come from that realm, there's nothing in you that would motivate you to go beyond yourself. You're stuck within that reality, which is self. How could you get out of it? And it's not even negative. It's just your condition. I'll go one step further. It's a novelty that a Jew or a non-Jew who has a soul from the unholy, from that realm, that's the middle realm, is able to go out of himself. That's the novelty. Think about it. How often do you know, think in your life in the last 5 years, 5 months, 5 days, how many times did you do a purely noble act that had no selfish agenda there at all? It's not so easy to find such a thing. It's almost, you got to look with a magnifying glass. Was this really selfless? Even the good that I did, was it really selfless? So that a person could be selfless is a novelty. If a person is self-centered, that's normal. That's the normal condition of a human being. That's who we are. That's our condition. Our souls are made to be self-centered. What do you want from me? That's our natural disposition. To be able to go out of myself and transcend that, that's a novelty. So when the Alter Rebbe says over here, we didn't read it inside, we'll do it next week, that a Jew's soul comes from klippas neiga, where everyone else comes from the opaque klippa. He doesn't mean everyone else. A lot of Gentiles that also come from the klippas neiga, but he's just dividing it in that way. Person that comes from the negative, from the opaque klippa. You know what I mean by opaque? The one that's completely concealed, not the translucent. He's incapable of doing a truly altruistic deed. He can do very good things. He can do very, very noble things. And there are millions and millions of people doing noble things all day long. But to say there's nothing there that is there's no self-centered motive there at all. It's not so simple. So that's what the Alter Rebbe is saying over here. He's defining that first soul. I'm not done yet. We'll go into the words and we'll analyze it a little more. That first soul gives us the ability. It's a very self-centered soul. That's what it's defined by. But it has the ability, because it comes from that realm of klippa that's translucent, it could rise above it and do something truly noble. Someone that doesn't have that soul can't. And we're not even in the second soul yet, which is the uniquely godly soul. We're still in the human soul. Yeah. The second neshama is not, anyone could, anyone can convert and get it. Anyone can get the second soul, but that's a soul that God at Sinai decided to give his chosen people. To the Jewish people, the chosen people. That's a godly soul. Yeah, they have, and they come from the same, their human soul is from the same place where a Jewish human soul is. Not in the neshama, I'm talking about the first soul. They have a human soul, which is the nefesh habahamit, the human soul, which gives them life and has characteristics, and some are very noble characteristics. What are you missing? What am I missing?
Tell me, what can
I didn't, yeah.
What can a neshama do, the Jewish neshama do, that the human soul can?
Be completely godly. For example, give up your life for God. That give up their life for God? Why do they give up their life?
A lot of people sacrifice their lives to God.
One second. It is a sacrifice. He's right. I'll analyze that, but I mean, it's 9 o'clock. I don't know if we want to just continue. I do want to get, it's a good question. I'll tell you what makes it. In very, very briefly, and with this I'll end, and we can pick up next week. The answer to your question is, when a regular person People die for their causes every day. People die for freedom. They die for people fight for all kinds of philosophies and truths and things they believe in. Why are they ready to die for it? Prove a point, to go to heaven, right? To get rewarded. I'm such a hero. Some people do it because they want to be in the headlines. Some people, I'm a little more noble because they'll get rewarded in heaven. All kinds of reasons. Or they don't see, if I can't live what my life, as it's not worth living. Why do people, give me an example of someone giving up their life. If you told a Christian, if you're going to continue being a Christian, I'm going to kill you. Imagine someone said to a Christian such a thing. And he says, you know what, kill me. What's going on over there? Why is he allowing himself to be killed? He doesn't want to live? Why is he ready to die? He's ready to die because he doesn't see life without Christianity. He has life. To him, that's not life. Or he makes a calculation. Wow, there's the ultimate sacrifice. I'll be rewarded in heaven unbelievably. There could be many different reasons. But are they actually giving up their life? Or they're enhancing their life, their memory, their reward in heaven? Is that really a sacrifice of self? Or is that an enhancement of self? And I don't mean to be judgmental about anyone else. I'm really not. This is about analyzing the truth and getting to the core essence of it. When someone gives up his life, where it's simply manifest and clear. Sometimes you have a secular Jew, and there were many of these in the history of the Jewish people. They didn't keep kosher, thieves. When you told them, you got to give up your Judaism, if not, we kill you, they allowed themselves to go to their death. When someone views this, you say, wow, what a religious person. How wonderful. Religious person. He laughs at you. I'm the furthest thing from a religious person. I'm not such an honest person. I'm not so committed to God in my daily life. There were stories like this. Yet secular Jews that gave up their life for their Judaism. What does that mean? How does that happen? You'll never have a secular Muslim or a secular Christian give up his life for Christianity. It'll never happen. Such a thing does not exist. If you're devoted to Christianity, you'll be so devoted, even at my cost of my life, because that became my life. I can't live without Christianity. I don't mean me, I'm saying the person, obviously. But this person is living very well without Judaism. He's not honest, he's not kosher, he's nothing. On his daily level, he hasn't been very religious at all. Where did he get that motivation to die for God? He hasn't thought about God in a week, or in a month, or in a year. He hasn't lived a godly life. Where's that coming from? His godly soul. You know what it's coming from? He has a neshama, and he knows that he has a neshama. If he doesn't know that he has a neshama, it'll never motivate him to anything. But if you know you have a neshama, you're not living according to it. You're not living the life of a neshama. But I know I have it. I cannot be told you're going to bow to the idol. If not, I kill you. I'm going to die. That's a neshama. A non-Jew is not capable of giving up his life as something that isn't his life. No human being is able to do such a thing. It's almost a crazy thing, if you think about it. Their life is freedom. Their life is the American values. They're ready to fight for it. That becomes their life. Someone that doesn't believe in the American value system is going to go and die for American in the American army. He's not going to do it unless he's forced, unless he's drafted. He has no choice. I'm not talking about if you have no choice. If they're doing it for reward, is that self? It's a great self. It's a noble self. But he can't say he gave up himself. If he's looking for reward, he hardly gave himself up. He's looking for a better self, a higher level self.
Maybe somebody's not going for that. Maybe because he really loves his country.
I'm not saying the people, you're talking about the people that love this country, so that became their life. Yeah. They can't see, in other words, you're telling me that I should not, he's fighting for a value system that he believes in very strongly. And when you take away that value system, that let's say it's American values, I'd rather not live. I'd rather go to my death. That's not selfless in the pure definition of selfless. Most people would consider, wow, that's a hero, and he is. We should give him a medal. He should be. But that alone is the problem. When you're giving people medals, and that becomes part of the. Oh, I'll go down in history. I'll become a hero. That's not a sacrifice of self. That's an enhancement of self.
Is that evil?
No, I'm not saying it's evil. Yeah.
So you made a comment that unless you convert and then you get the second soul.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
How does what happen? How does the soul come into you? How does it come into you at birth?
50, well, God puts it there when you're born.
Exactly. So he puts it there when you're 50. It's
Well,
exactly
then
the
you don't
truth.
have it and you
Most
walk
people
out
make
there.
most people make the mistake thinking we get our soul from our mother. If your mother's Jewish, you have a soul. You didn't get it from your mother. You get it from God, as you learn in the beginning of chapter 2, what that soul is. Only God can give it to you. It's a piece of himself. He blows it into every single one of us at birth. He made a condition. If the womb is a Jewish one, you're getting the soul automatically.
But when they convert, how do they know they have it?
How do you know you have it?
I feel it.
Huh? So they feel it. They feel it.
With the
Yeah.
children of the Jewish mother.
Let me
that
close this.
converted or
Say that again. What? One second. I want to thank everyone for listening and watching, and we'll see you next week, same time, same place. Yeah,
If somebody converts out of Judaism to another
can't
religion, is it?
can't do it. There's only the door is open. It one way. It swings in, doesn't swing out. You can't get out of Judaism. Why not? Because no one gave you. You didn't acquire this soul on your own. God didn't ask you to be given that soul, and therefore you can't decide to get rid of it, to shed yourself from that soul.
But if you convert and convert back,
You don't have to convert back. You can't leave Judaism.
Never leave.
You have in the Neshama, you're stuck in Judaism. You're stuck. You can convert. In other words, you can start acting like a Christian or like any other religion, but that won't make you. You know how many Jewish Christians there are? They say that there's so many Jewish Christians, right? Jews for Jesus. What is that? You've heard of that movement, right? What does Jews for Jesus mean? If they're Jews, they're not Judaism anymore. So why are they calling themselves Jews? Which is another question. What is the definition of a Jew? Someone that likes gefilte fish?